Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series of The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas. If this is your first time, please click subscribe, share, comment, and also don't forget to follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom. Author of the book, Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom, has been featured in numerous national media and TV outlets as ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, and many more. Winning the 2023 Living Book Award based on his family's history, grandparents first living under the Nazis and then under the communist regime in Hungary, exploring the depths and experiences of his father's quest for freedom. The book has won the 2023 National Indie Excellence Award and the 2023 Nautilus Book Award. Let's welcome to the seance Dr. Robert Wolf. Welcome, Robert. How are you?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dr. Is it Reverend Paul? Dr. Paul?
Reverend, Doctor, just call me Paul.
Thank you for having me, Paul. I much appreciate it. Much appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Doctor. So how did this book first, what made you decide to write this book?
Such a great question. My mom and dad wrote his autobiography back in the 1970s. They were very sharp people, great memories. They wrote the stories of my dad's life, going back to from World War I, where he wasn't quite yet born, but had a little bit of history there. But from his birth in the 20s all the way well into the 50s through 1956, that's sort of the time span of the book. They wrote the stories as though they had happened the previous day. Like the way they described everything about all their harrowing times, their good times, the smells, the sounds, the details, so well written back in. So they actually went from paper and pencil to typewriter to a computer. This is now in the 60s when they were actually finally established in the United States after 4 escapes, as it turns out, for my dad and my mom's escape with my dad, of course, in 1956, their final escape. And then I really didn't think much of it back as a kid. I was just a kid in the 70s. So then I did read the manuscript once, didn't think much of it. I kind of heard my dad's first escape. That sort of stuck with me over the years. Then I just sort of put it away. And then, so flash forward to 1997, my dad passes away, unfortunately. 2016, my mom passes away, unfortunately. And then a historian friend of ours from my hometown in Michigan hands me the disc. So now it's on a disc. And she says, "You've got to look at this." And I still didn't think much of it at the time because all of a sudden I'm busy. I'm an only child of only parents, so I'm the only one left in my family. And I had bestowed upon me the duty of taking care of my mom's affairs. Now, she wasn't the Queen of England or anything, but it was busy. There was a lot to do. And I was doing it by myself. So that was about worth. And in 2017, I decided to retire. And we put away a little money. We had no debt. And it was time to travel, slow things down a little bit. Flash forward to 2018, and I went back to work. A friend of mine needed help out of Michigan, reading part-time, some x-rays and ultrasounds from home, which I'm still doing. And that brought me to the book. That brought me to the disc. It sort of called out to me, I guess you could say. It's sort of corny. I describe it like Superman's kryptonite. It sort of summoned me. And as a radiologist, which is what I do for a living, I've been doing it for 35 years. On the left, we have a left screen and a right screen. And on the left screen, we've got the list of the patients, the queue. And on the right screen, we've got the images. So in between cases, I loaded up the disc, and my dad's autobiography was on the left. I did it as a biography. I dictated the whole biography on the right. It took me about a year. It was really pretty much point A to B to C. It was kind of dull. The stories were interesting, but the way the book was done was dull. So we queried some agents and publishers, and to little avail. We were ready to self-publish, but I reached out to a couple of beta readers. One is Elisa Tenier, a very good writer and a good book coach, and she hooked me up with my co-author, Janice. And Janice looked at the book and said, "It's a great book, it's a great story, but we're going to have to buffer it up. We're going to have to do a little bit more with it to make it something. If you want just your friends and family to read it, that's one thing. But if you really want to turn it into a special novel, then let me work with it." So I handed her the reins. So now we're into 2019, 2020. She did an amazing job. It's not a straight line type biography. It is a biography. It is an adventure, and my dad's and his family's trials and tribulations, a history book about Hungary. But she just turned it into a fantastic novel. Conversations, the letters to and from home, parallel stories, converging stories, and all tied into what my dad had said in his original notes from his autobiography. Finally, we queried more agents and publishers. It was we vetted very few people. It was a very selective vetting. And bottom of the ninth, shoestring catch, we pick up Amsterdam Publishers in 2022. And they love the story, and here we go. So Amsterdam Publishers, fantastic company, and this is all they do is the Holocaust genre and related titles. Now, the book that she does has a little bit of a twisted turn. Some of it's about food, some of it's about music or dancing, some of them are about escapes, multiple countries around the world, but ours also includes the communist rule, my parents' viewpoint and their experiences under communist Hungary, not just Nazi Hungary. And short of corralling the Hungarian Jews into town squares and onto trains and to death camps, the communists weren't so much better to the Jews as the Nazis in many ways.
Wow. What are some of the messages within this story?
Well, the first thing I was going to say. So when I read the story, I was so impressed with all the miracles. Of course, there's that regret. Why didn't I do this when my parents were still alive? And and I wish I could hear my mom saying this with her the Jewish guilt, and I mean that with my heart. That's not you couldn't do this while we were still alive. I could just hear her saying that, but at least we did it. I think my parents are pleased that I did this. My parents were Holocaust educators all their lives. They were also very well-rounded people. They educated in history. They were into museums and arts and travel, education, many facets in their lives, not just the Holocaust. But they did educate quite a bit about the Holocaust. And if you knew me 6 years ago when I started this project, you'd say this guy would never be doing what he's doing now, because I think I had Holocaust burnout, and I'd been hearing it, and she was telling my family and my wife and friends the stories all the time, and I got a little bit super saturated with it. But after I went to rest for a while, I got motivated, and when I read the stories, I said miracle after miracle and faith after faith, and how the heck did my dad get through all these times and still smile and be jovial and jolly? And here's the first message: is you can survive tough times, harrowing times, and still get through it and change your life around. I know it's tough for a lot of people. Overcoming PTSD is a big topic. We've talked about with Vietnam vets, domestic violence. Now we talk about human trafficking. I can't imagine being a victim of it. These poor kids from October 7th, you name your event. It could be an individual, it could be a group. But so there's one lesson there, is that amazing how Dad went through everything he did, end up moving to Detroit after he redid his residency, his OBGYN residency in Boston, and delivered 10,000 babies in the Detroit area, which is called Redemption, and did it with a big smile on his face, and would have done it till the day he died. Very well loved and respected in the medical community, the Jewish community, and in general, my mom and dad. So there's that lesson. The lesson and message of determination is a big one. Resilience, determination, survival. How do we survive? I asked myself, how could I ever survive what my dad went through? 4 escapes, I mean, you got to be kidding me. Running around in the mountains in the cold, worried about
Wow.
vultures beating you, worried about bears, wolves eating you, other nature's thistle, poison ivy, whatever insects, and he did it. And the thing is, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Like, okay, you got away from somebody, but where are you going to go? You have no food, you have no job, you have no. We talk about that light at the end of the tunnel. It's another message. It's we always look forward to that light at the end of the tunnel. For the longest time, for my dad and his friend Frank, no light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, 1956, when they finally got out, that was one too. So, also determination. Dad he wanted to be free, but he also wanted to be a doctor, and he fortunately managed to do both. He had to sacrifice a lot of freedom to put up with the communist rule for many years while he was practicing medicine, but eventually, because of the catalyst of the Hungarian Revolution in '56, in which they were both frontliners, by the way, they decided that they were tired of two wars and all this repression and persecution. Integrity is another message. My dad, it was his sense of integrity, and his father too. It emulates on you. And here's another message: is you can feel my dad's. You can put yourself in my dad's place. So whatever happened to my dad could happen to any one of us. Another message I got out of it, and once you get into his shoes, you'll feel for him. You'll either be his hero or you'll feel like you are him in his shoes to going through what he's going through. So, a million other messages. Name a word, and we can expound on it. But hope is another message. I mean, that hope needs to be extended to today's world because, like I said, what happened to my dad could happen to any one of us. Could be a local government. It could be a bad neighbor, a bad business, state government, federal government, foreign government, natural disaster. Whatever the case may be, we could end up on the run, looking for food, looking for a job, looking for a home, looking for a friend, that kind of thing. So many, many messages in this book that carry forward.
Yeah. And let me bring up an image of the book. That way when people are trying to look for it, they know what to look for. That's an awesome cover. Colorful cover.
The guy was from Croatia. Never spoke to him. Yep, we did. It was all done online. I mean, wow. I have people. I have a great team. Here's another. It's all about the team. That's another great message. Yeah. I didn't do this by myself. If I didn't get help from such a great team, the gentleman, one of my best friends, helped me with the website. He's been along this journey with me the whole time. My co-author, our publisher, the guy that did the cover, being from Croatia, being from that part of the world. It hit him. It hit him emotionally as well. So he was happy to do it and did it for a reasonable price. So it's all about the team, and that's true in medicine, and that's true in general, and not just sports. But working with the team is a big part of. And truthfully, that's a big part of fighting anti-Semitism too. And that's kind of why I got the zap. That's why I'm doing this. Is I realized how important the messages were. Never imagining that 6 years down the road, let alone 100 years, less than 100 years down the road, that Jewish people would be. Not necessarily fighting for their lives, although in many cases they are, but just fighting for some sort of semblance of normalcy, just some sorts of equality, just make people realize that people are people, and there's good people and bad people, and the Jewish people are a very small minority on this planet, let alone the U.S. But I think more about the team. And believe me, I have many, many, many Christian friends, probably more Christian friends than Jewish friends. I got a lot of Jewish friends too, Asian, Hindu, Muslim. And my parents were the same way. They had friends from India, Asia, Africa, continental Africa, all over the place. They loved engaging with people. They loved learning about people. They taught me tolerance. And I guess I'm just trying to convey the message. And somebody else once recently said to me, well, you're your dad's messenger. And actually, that made my month. That made my week when somebody says that. It's not. I guess that's kind of unconsciously, subconsciously. That's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to spread these same messages that my parents were able to.
Yeah. You got to teach this stuff because it seems like and it might be a touchy subject, but it seems like they're trying to erase history. You skip a couple generations, and you just teach stuff that they're not teaching history today. And every time the Holocaust gets brought up, it's taken way out. Most people, at least I wouldn't say most people, but a lot of the people that I've seen look at you like deer in headlights. They don't know what you're talking about. They know nothing about it. They can't tell you anything about it. All they can tell you about is World War II. That's it. That's as far as it can go. And I feel that your book is a part of that teaching. People have got to go out and investigate themselves if they want to learn about something. And do you feel that, especially within the global political climate that's going on right now, it's a must, definitely.
It is. Well, history is important, and it's not just my book or Hungary. I mean, the unique part about my book is nobody really knows. I mean, professional historians know, Hungarians know, their neighboring people from neighboring countries, certain researchers, and they do know. I am a historian per se, but it's in my little corner. But I didn't know much about the history of Hungary before, if it weren't for what my parents shared with me. We all know about Pearl Harbor and the bombing of London and D-Day and Blitzkrieg and Kristallnacht, and there's certain points we know about Anne Frank and Schindler. We know a lot about the history of World War II, but the denial of the Holocaust is a part of it that needs to not go away, because that was a big part of the reason for the United States and other countries to help fight and stop this nonsense. And you bring up another good point, that is 9/11, let's say. Some of these young protesters that are college kids weren't even around when 9/11 happened, and some of them are denying 9/11. And I might remind you that that was an attack on the United States. That was not an attack on Jewish people. Muslims died, Jewish people died, Christians died, countless long-term health issues. The costs were relentless. The cost of travel, for example, the cost of security. It's been since then that I haven't seen since then that America has been as cohesive as they were. And we can flash back to World War II, because that was probably about the last time it was true too. We talk about the Korean War. America was underfunded, or the equipment was insufficient. Vietnam, we didn't know why we were there. I know why we were there. We were fighting communism, and sort of same with Korea. But I get it, because communism was a big part of my dad's story, and really not a real enemy of the United States in some cases. But history needs to be taught. Old Testament, New Testament, whatever you believe in. If you're Christian or Jewish, you don't have to believe in everything, but at least it should be exposed to people. My book does just that in this own little corner of it, and describes the history of Hungary and their little corner of it. Talks about the Great Depression in the 30s and how that morphed into a war. Hopefully that's not hopefully we don't have World War III, but we certainly seem to be on the brink with everything going on. Russia and Ukraine, they haven't changed much. We talk about that in my when I do a book presentation, my little lecture, which is sometimes well received. Actually, it's always well received, but it's nice to get more of them. But I'm getting a lot of them, and I'd like to get more of them. And that's my other thing, is I want this book to be taught in the classroom. It needs to be taught to these kids. 8th graders, 7th graders, they could handle my book speech, my book presentation. But for somebody to read the whole book, probably 8th, 9th grade, it's not really for high school curriculum necessarily, maybe summer reading, unless kids are taught at yeshiva school or special Hebrew studies, but definitely in college classrooms. I think it could be a big part of yeshiva, Jewish studies, Holocaust studies, tolerance. It could be a big part. And not just my book, other books from my Amsterdam publishers. There's many, many good books. And so that's one of my goals too. In the meantime, we do these talks, we do these podcasts, TV interviews, book presentations, and try to ultimately in the classroom. Got to educate the kids, and we have to educate their parents too, because education does start at home. If your parents aren't teaching you the right thing, then it's going to be hard to overcome those prejudices. The good news is 99% of Americans in the free world have normal thinking. I mean, normal to us, to you and me, that we're peaceful. Yeah. We believe in family and work and freedom of religion. But it's those few people that we may not convert them, but at least if we can sort of surround them and say, look, enough is enough.
Yeah, and I feel that with the amount of time we've had this complacency here in the West, this freedom and this, this leisure over for decades, ever since World War II, that I wouldn't say gotten lazy, but complacent, that we're not careful. History is going to repeat itself. Do you feel that we're not careful? I
hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong. That's what I'm here for, just to try to do this like diplomatically instead of gunfight at the OK Corral, which is not. I mean, that's just not for me. I mean, I'm in medicine, so my job is to diagnose disease and to help treat disease, not to inflict it. But
Yeah.
hopefully, if history doesn't repeat itself, and you bring up another message that comes out of this book, besides saying that what happened to my dad could happen to us, if it happens to us, you or me, then that complacency, that feeling of comfort that we have in our own home, watching gangster movies or war movies or any other type of violence or anything else we want will go away. We won't have those privileges. What happens if you don't get to go to church or the synagogue to pray? I mean, that's not what the world is about. So that's a message. We complain about waiting in line at McDonald's too long, 5 minutes, 10
Yeah.
minutes. Sit back, relax. Get on your phone, text a friend if you want. At least you can text while you're parking, and use your time wisely. Don't we are lucky. We have the takeout orders. We've got grocery stores filled with great food. We shouldn't take that thing. We shouldn't take that stuff for granted. And it's a great point that I don't want us to be complacent. I appreciate everything I have every day. Well, most days, but because we all have our days. But in the grand scheme of things, yes, it's a great point you make that we need to look at ourselves and appreciate what's given to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Without giving out too much information, could you explain maybe one of the key points in the book that kind of get us in that mood, in that point, in that time? One of the scenes in one of the stories.
Yeah, I could do. How about my dad's first escape? He was sick. He actually had a foot infection, and that probably ended up saving his life. He had to go to a hospital. He had to walk miles and miles and miles, which is all they did every day in forced labor camp. And this was his first escape. And I can't say it's his most harrowing, but it's the one I remember. When he got back to camp, his fellow slave laborers were already marching, and they felt that the war was almost over, but because this was now 1944. But they didn't know if they're going to Hungary or Austria. So they were conflicted about, they didn't even know who's going to win the war, whether it was going to be Russia, the United States, or Germany or Hungary. So they didn't know where to run to, if at all. So,
Yeah.
But they did know, they heard about these death marches that we hear. That's another thing, death marches. Nobody knows about death marches in Europe. We know about them in Okinawa and in the Pacific during World War II, but not so much there. So my dad and his friend Frank had this gut feeling that this was a death march. And so they had about 3 days to plan an escape. And that's exactly what they did. So when my dad was at the hospital being treated for the infection, he complained about, he notes about how bad the conditions were, dirty, unsanitary, but also how poorly the medical staff treated the Jewish patients. His doctor even said to him, well, it doesn't matter if we treat you or not, you'll be dead soon anyway. That's what his doctor, can you imagine your doctor saying that to you? Yeah, wow. That's one that I remember. That's something you walk away with. So anyway, he gets back to his friend Frank. They're in the Caspian foothills in the dead of winter. They're not sure where they are. Then they finally decide that this is the right night. We're going to get in the front of the line, the back of the line, as far away from the guards as possible. And at dusk, we're going to take off. And that's just what they did. What does Chris Berman say? Fumbling, stumbling, bumbling down, tripping and slipping, and just ice and snow, and not knowing where they're going. Almost dark, but it was a great strategy. And they just kept running until they're completely exhausted. And my dad goes through these thoughts in his head, like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And that to me is I get it, because I would feel that second thought. A third guy, so he and his friend Frank got away, and we'll leave it at that. But the third guy kind of escaped and tried to follow them, and they were not happy with that. Well, he got caught, and the guards, they could hear what the guards were doing to him while they were hiding in the thicket. And I can't imagine, especially with dogs around and this and that. I mean, these guys made I don't know, Hogan's Heroes look like the Brady Bunch. That's just what it was, so brutal. So, and then they had another. So they get to Budapest, and they were lucky. I mean, they met some nice people that helped them out whenever they could. Friends of my dad's parents, they got help, and then they got double crossed by this guy, and they ended up corralled in what they called the dog pound. And it was in Budapest, and they escaped again. And it's a different type of escape. Something you got to read, timing, luck. Brilliant strategy just at the last minute, anything they could think of to get out. And then he had a third one when he was a med student, turned around for fear of reprisal, from the Russians in case he got arrested. It might affect his medical career, so he changed his mind. And finally, they escaped in '56 after the Hungarian Revolution. That was pretty harrowing too. They couldn't leave the day they wanted to. They had to wait a couple extra days. They were closing the borders very, very rapidly. And this was after a war that my mom and dad were frontliners. My dad had already redone his OBGYN residency, and he had to double down as a trauma surgeon. And during that war, my mom was a medical student. She was 13 months away from graduating. She ran the blood bank, and 3,000 people died in that little-known war as well. It's about a 2.5-week war, about 11,000 injured, countless refugees, homeless. Many escaped the country while they could. Mom and Dad were obliged to help out the wounded. And finally, when that war had ended, which it did pretty quickly, which I wish had happened in Ukraine, now I call the Ukraine war, the Hungarian Revolution on steroids, because it really is going on. And thank God that didn't happen in Hungary, although the result wasn't great because they were still stuck under the communist hardliners became even more so after that uprising. But anyway, they had enough, and so they finally escaped. Another teaser is my dad got beaten as a kid. He was a spoiled kid. He grew up on the wealthy side. So, they talk about an arc in a story. So the arc goes from my dad being raised and it wasn't easy for his parents before he was born, my dad's parents. But they finally got established. His dad was a dentist, and he was raised as a relatively spoiled kid, but he was a nice kid, a smart kid, did what his parents told. And then all of a sudden he's taken a forced labor camp where he's not used to doing a hard day of work in his life. And then he turned out to be very tough and resilient, and integrity got him a long way. His friends got him a long way. And then many harrowing years afterwards, until he finally got to go to medical school, finally. And that's hard work too. I should say it's not harrowing. It's really hard work. It's, medical school and residency. It's, you're not being, you don't have a gun at your back, but it's not easy work. So you can't just take that for granted, right? But and then the other war and the trip to the United States was tough. We don't go that far in the book. We end in Vienna. We could do a sequel of the book from Vienna to their time in Michigan in the '70s, which he chronicled too, but that's down the road. I have a couple other books in the back of my head, but right now, even if I were to do that, by far, this would be the most important book that I would have done. I think if we can distribute enough copies, if we can get the message out to enough people, I think it might make a difference. People that have reached out to me that have read this book, many have said how it's changed the way that they look at the world, and that's pretty much that's so heartwarming to me. That was the whole point of everything, is because it did it for me too, and they're my own parents, So
yeah. Before we go any further, even though your website's scrolling there on the bottom, how can people reach out to you? What's your website, and where they can find all your information?
Okay, well, I see it scrolling across the bottom, robertjwolfmd.com. I feel like I'm a movie star here. So I love the background, too. I got to say, I feel like I'm on a Boston album cover. I was trying to think what this reminded me. But robertjwolfmd.com. I've got a YouTube channel that's Robert J. Wolf, MD. I haven't gotten on in a while, but if you just Google Robert J. Wolf, you'll find me across the board. But that has about 30 videos and climbing. I've done many podcasts, and I hope to do many more, TV and radio interviews and book presentations, and hopefully a lot more of those. But that's the YouTube channel. And the book can be found at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, my alma mater, Tufts. Saul Gittleman, a professor from Tufts, he's retired now, professor emeritus, but he's also provost at Tufts. He wrote a great review of my book, and I'm so grateful. And he put the book in the Tisch Library over at the Tufts. And I was just at my 40th class reunion there last weekend, which was fantastic. Yeah. And so the book's on sale there. It's a Barnes & Noble store, I think. But and then so any Barnes & Noble, you can go in, and if it's not on the shelves, which it is on the shelves at about 15 or 20 across the country, but you can always ask. It's in the system. Where else? And of course the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center, where we did a book presentation last fall. That was a really, really nice time. We did a little fireside chat. We did the speech, book signing. We closed the place. And also at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., where I just did a 2-day book signing, which is such an honor and privilege. It's so humbling. It's like the 4 awards. It hasn't even hit me yet. It's just so nice that there's enough people out there to recognize the importance of the work. So it is available in Washington, D.C. at the Holocaust Museum. And I'm privileged and honored that they've invited me to come back to do another book signing. So, which is a really, really nice thing. So,
wow. Wow. Yeah.
10% of my author proceeds are going to that Holocaust Museum in perpetuity. That's something I've got in my trust, my will, and it's a slow start, but it's improved year over year. It's going to get better, and hopefully that's sort of my full circle to pay back my mom and dad. The book is, of course, a tribute, legacy to the family, but I thought my mom and dad would be pleased for me to be able to donate at least 10% of my the proceeds to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. and help educate more and more people. Mm-hmm. And that's a very heartwarming thing, seeing all these families and kids go through there on the 2-day book signings and ask you questions about the book and ask you about genocide and the Holocaust and show an interest. And that's what I'm doing this for. I mean, it's such a fantastic feeling. And hopefully get more and more of those.
Yeah, got to educate. Definitely education. Have you checked out there's a Holocaust Museum down here in St. Pete. I haven't been able to go. Every time I went, they were closed. I'm like, what? But I was like, I'm always meaning to go out there.
I hate to use this word. Everybody hears about it. I mean, I've been there, and I dropped a book off there. And it was like Fort Knox in there. It was. I was at the one in Naples, and the guy came out, and we talked, and it was great. It was the second time I met him, and gave him the copy of the book. And I haven't heard back from them. But that's part of this. It is a business too, and you have to accept that not everybody's going to have the wherewithal, the time, the scheduling, the money, the funds to be able to have you come and do book talks. I would love to do one there, but I did drop a book off there. It's a great point. Yeah. I could reach out to them, but there's so many others. And I've been reneged on. I've been canceled inadvertently, sometimes by mistake. It's a part of it, but you can't take it personally. But I do take it personally when people are apathetic to my plight. That's a different issue. If you can say no to me. Like if you're not interested in the book or you don't want me to do a talk or something, just say no. That's fine. But don't ghost us. Don't leave us hanging. And that's that way. But it is what it is. There's so many people to reach, and it's funny you mentioned St. Petersburg because I was there, and I was there because I did a Tampa TV interview. It was a while ago, but that was a great interview. Such a great experience doing it live I did one in Miami too. Those are really really fun experiences. And the weird thing is, you don't get nervous till after the interview's over. It's a strange phenomenon, but that's what happened to me. So. I've got friends in Tampa, and I was going to do a talk at a Chabad in the Tampa area, but it was right after the October 7th. They were worried about their security at the time. There were a bunch of protesters about a half a mile up the road. He said, I don't think it's a good idea now, but I will reach back out to them. We've been staying in touch, and he's actually been waiting for the audio book, which is going to be out in about a month, I'm happy to say, too. Oh, cool. So, so that's another nice announcement for us. But Tampa Bay is untapped territory, but we'll be back. And other than the TV interview, Naples, there's other places to go besides there's Barnes & Noble, besides the Holocaust Museum. And even here in Miami, dropped off a couple of books to some professors at University of Miami. They're reading the book now as we speak, so hopefully hear back from them. I've been invited to University of South Carolina recently at Hilton Head through a professor who's a friend of a high school friend, if you can believe that. I mean, you get so much support from your hometown. It's so unbelievable how 500 or 1,000 people can really make a difference if they stay with you, and they have. And hopefully I get that from the college classmates too. We'll see. But it's a patient business. It's hard. You see all these presidents testifying, university presidents testifying in Congress, and I want to wait out there without a sign, just say, guys, buy my book. Let's do a talk about my book and 3 others, and let's straighten out your minds here, and let's know the difference between right and wrong, guys. And you won't have to be in Congress testifying as to why you're not educating these kids properly, right? I mean,
yeah.
Never mind getting your name besmirched, let alone getting fired and everything else, and then these kids not being able to graduate. So very sad. Yeah,
it is. It is sad.
I mean, I got rejected by Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Stanford all the same day coming out of high school.
Yeah.
It's one of those devastating things. Any kid would give anything to be in a good school like that. Any if you can afford it. And now their reputation is just falling off a cliff, unfortunately. So.
The Ivy League ones are just they're losing their credibility.
That's sad. And sad. And these are supposed to be our future leaders. These are the ones. These are our Albert Einsteins. These are our. I'm comparing Albert Einstein to. Elon Musk is a brilliant guy, but he hasn't helped in some ways in the middle of all this. You got to walk gently, especially when you influence billions of people. So Zuckerberg, same thing. Anyway. I'm not going to get political. It's Zuckerberg's a Jewish guy too.
Mm-hmm.
But I have other people to reach out to that I think might be able to help us spread the word, and let's see what happens. But it's tough. It's really hard. People like you, though, it makes the world a difference. And you're the second person in a row, a man of the cloth. My last interview, my last host was from the Dominican Republic, and he was here. So that was really cool. And my three hosts before that, we were three physicians all in a row. So that's really nice. Professional people that care. More than just food, shelter, and clothing. There's other things in life that are important, and that's very heartwarming.
Yeah. My predecessor, unfortunately, is no longer with us. Passed away a few years ago. He taught the Holocaust in a lot of public schools. He started teaching that, and
I would love to do that. I'm not retired. I've been in radiology for 35 years, but I'm very part-time, so I have the time and the energy and hopefully the health to be able to do that. So. Yes, I'll talk to the 7th, 8th, 9th graders, elementary school, maybe a little young, but, you think how we were back in middle school and high school. We were always breaking each other's chops. We were always calling each other's names and this and that, and I don't want to even repeat the names we used to say because it was ridiculously, you'd say it was crazy, but we left it on the field. We still friends, left it on the field. We still went cruising Friday nights and had our McDonald's milkshakes or whatever the heck it was. But we left it on the field, and now it's not much that. It's too much. It's getting a little carried away. A bunch of bees nests, buzzing around. It's not good.
Yeah. Let me bring your book up again. That way people can get a visual of it. Beautiful book again.
Appreciate that, yeah. It's got the subtle Hungarian colors. Not a real enemy. I loved the guy that he does with the Star of David that's partly ripped. It's so appropriate. It's the guy was all over it. So fun guy to work with. Different when you're not, you don't speak the same language. Well, he speaks English, but when you can't talk on the phone or do a Zoom meeting, or most of the time, but there's a lot of trust in this business too. I've been built not by this guy. This guy was a bargain for what he did, but I've been ripped off more than once. And if you're going to steal from a guy who's talking about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, as they say in the Ten Commandments, you're lower than the dust. So, it's just, it's not, and people are just going to do that. And how social media is. Everybody, the cryptocoin people, and the bouncing breasts, and the Asian ladies, and the Nigerian nightmare, and the Ugandan, on and on. People want whatever. It's too. I don't want to get too specific. And now it's I'm so glad my analyst told me about so and so, and it's the same message, different person. I get 4 or 5 of those a day, and it cuts into my charge. It cuts into my time, but. People they're all trying to make money. More people trying to make money just cheating from you than they are trying to just go out and make a living. And then you ask yourself, why am I doing this? I'm trying to teach you to be honest and peaceful. And why would you, but anyway, I want to keep it on a positive thing, but it's all part of it. And fortunately it's a minority of people, but it's out there. You really got to watch yourself. This world has changed.
You can't,
it's changed quite a bit.
Nowadays, you just can't trust anybody. My father always told me that. He's like, don't trust anybody. It might take a while. It might take a while. Just give it a grain of salt. Just concentrate on what you need to concentrate on, and just the truth come out eventually. If somebody's trying to do something, it'll.
You seem like a guy. Oh yeah, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. You seem like a guy. You seem like a guy who can read people, and that's part of it. I trust people that I can trust, but the truth is, as we get older and more selective, you are going to select down and narrow down your inner circle. But trust is a big thing. I do have to still trust people to help me carry the word, and in the case of paying people for a service, I need to trust them then. But fortunately, I don't have to reach out more now than I did. During this whole process of getting the book out. So, I trust people will want peace, and I trust people will help the Jewish plight because Judeo-Christian values are there. Are just that. One of my best friends talks about Judeo-Christian values, and they're really the same. It's a scary thing. I wish more people follow people like Jesus, even though I'm not Christian, but Moses is a hero, Gandhi is a hero, MLK is a hero, Golda Meir, Indira Gandhi even, and people don't talk about these great leaders and the ones that were peaceful, that took charge, that had a real good focus and who believed in equality. And now we're hearing from crazy rappers and stuff on social media and all this environmental noise that just it's too much for me. So I'm just stay in my little corner, teach peace, fight hatred, do your best.
Yeah, that's a very important message. Very important message. Before we wrap up the show, what do you have as a takeaway for our viewers and listeners today?
One thing I like to say is if you're bored with life, change your vector. Do something different. If you're doing the same job 20, 30 years, if you don't like what you're doing, change it. If it's not writing a book, write a play, go see some more movies, read 10 books, travel somewhere, find new friends, do something different. Do something different. If you're bored, then you might end up finding that you're boring. And that's one thing. It's never too late to change. Be a team player. I think relying on a team is always important. It's something it's a learned process, but I think that I think that's an important thing, is being part of a team. That goes a long way. Love your family, love your friends. Don't take things for granted, and just be a person of faith and integrity. It'll take you a long way. Honesty, integrity, and peace. It'll really, and I don't want to sound corny, but really that's how I feel. And I'm a doctor. My dad was a doctor. His dad was a dentist. Why would you hate our family? Why? What have we done? We've contributed to society and then some. Mm-hmm. Not only as workers, but because we were compensated for that, but giving back to society. And that's the big takeaway. Give back to society. Give to charity. Run a charity event. That's another good thing to do. Donate something. Donate your time. Very important.
Yeah,
very important.
It's about helping your fellow human being of service is, I feel, is the goal for any human being, is being of service to and fellowship and charity of the rest of the human race.
Absolutely. I couldn't say it better yourself. And thank you for your service too. I mean, people do what you do. It's thank you for your service. It's above and beyond. You get up every day and you're trying to keep the faith and keep people enlightened.
Yes.
And it's appreciated.
Yeah. Absolutely. Robert, blessings, my friend.
Blessings to you,
blessings.
Paul. God bless.
And God bless, and good luck on the mission.
Thank you.
And
appreciate that.
And keep me posted.
I sure will. Stay in touch.
Definitely keep me posted on the next book.
Well, if I get there, that's a really, really lofty goal, but we'll see. But in the meantime, I got a whole mountain pile of work on this one, so I'm sticking with it. But stay in touch, and when you release this, please let me know. And any other, I think we have most of our social media contact information.
Yeah. And when you're in the Central Florida area, give me a holler.
I'll let you know if I get a book presentation in that area. I'll let you know if you got a few minutes to come out and see it. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
And, appreciate your time.
Awesome. Cool. Robert, thank you again, my friend.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. We will see you next time.